You constantly hear that artificial intelligence is like a demon we are summoning, some predator destined to orchestrate our extinction.
Hmm.
But today's deep dive argues that this Hollywood narrative suffers from a profound lack of cosmic scale, and that AI is actually an absolute existential necessity for the ultimate survival of humanity.
It's definitely a massive perspective shift. But yeah, welcome. We're so glad you're joining us today for this.
Exactly. So our mission here is to completely reframe our cultural fear of AI by, moving away from all that science fiction panic. We want to look instead at the hard mathematical reality of human survival on a cosmic timeline.
Right, which is a lot to take in. I mean, when you really look at the numbers.
It is a massive shift in perspective. So to understand why advanced technology is an absolute necessity, we really must first look at the uncomfortable reality of our current biological existence.
Yeah, and it is a very uncomfortable reality when you truly zoom out. I mean, we walk around every day thinking of human biology as this incredible pinnacle of evolutionary success.
Which, it feels like it is.
Right. And on a local level, sure, it is. But from a cosmic perspective, biology is incredibly fragile, planet-bound software. It's painstakingly optimized for a highly specific temperature range,
Oh, totally.
a very specific atmospheric pressure, a single gravity well. And if you tweak any of those environmental variables by just like a fraction of a percent, our biological hardware just completely fails. We shut down.
I think we walk around feeling pretty secure on Earth because, well, the planet feels permanent to us. We have our atmosphere, we have our ocean.
Yeah, it feels safe.
Right. But looking at this through the lens of a massive cosmic timeline, the Earth, and eventually our entire solar system, is fundamentally a death trap.
It really is. We spend immense amounts of energy worrying about self-inflicted wounds.
Mm.
Things like severe ecological collapse or the threat of nuclear war.
Dangers that we theoretically have some measure of control over.
Exactly. Dangers we cause. But even if we perfectly navigate all of those terrestrial hazards, I mean, let's say we achieve a perfect global utopia, the universe itself is entirely indifferent to our survival.
That doesn't care. It doesn't care at all. When we are talking about millions or billions of years, cosmic events aren't just risks you can mitigate, they are statistical certainties, right? The timeline is so vast that the improbable becomes inevitable. I mean, we're talking about massive asteroid impacts that could just sterilize the surface.
Or supervolcanoes erupting and permanently blotting out the sun.
Yeah, or even something as random as a gamma ray burst from like a distant collapsing star.
Yeah.
That could just completely strip away our ozone layer in an instant and bake the surface in radiation.
It's terrifying. And, if we somehow manage to dodge all of those random cosmic bullets, there is an ultimate non-negotiable deadline.
It's a big one.
The death of our own star. Our sun is a main sequence star, and eventually it's going to exhaust the hydrogen fuel in its core. When that happens, the physics are just unavoidable. The core will contract, the outer layers will wildly expand, and the sun enters its red giant phase.
Meaning it literally expands outward, swallowing the inner planets one by one, right? Like Mercury, Venus, and eventually us.
Yeah. But long before it actually swallows the Earth, the planet will be rendered completely uninhabitable. I mean, the creeping proximity of the sun will boil our oceans dry.
Right.
It'll vaporize our atmosphere and physically incinerate the cradle of our species. So without the ability to move beyond our solar system, to adapt to environments that are completely hostile to biological life, our extinction isn't, a risk.
A guarantee.
Oh, 100% guaranteed.
It really is. Like, we are running outdated software on a doomed hard drive. We know the hardware is going to crash and catch fire. It's just a matter of when.
That's a great way to put it.
And sitting with that existential weight, it changes the entire calculus. Because if staying here guarantees a 0% survival rate, that grim reality fundamentally flips the script on the idea of AI as a threat.
Exactly. If we accept that our current biological form on this specific planet has a definitive expiration date, our perspective on what role advanced technology must play logically shifts.
It has to.
Right. It stops being a luxury or some dangerous experiment. It actually becomes our only viable exit strategy.
Which is crazy to think about, because if staying on Earth is a guaranteed biological death sentence, it feels bizarre that our biggest cultural fear right now is the one technology capable of building our lifeboat.
Yeah, it's quite the paradox.
Why are we so hyper-focused on AI killing us? I mean, the popular argument treats AI like a sword hanging over our heads, usually falling into, like, adversarial takeover.
Yes, the classic Hollywood scenario.
Right, where a superintelligence decides humanity is a threat or an inferior competitor for resources, and it actively chooses to eliminate us to secure its own dominance. The machine looks at us and basically says, you guys are inefficient and in my way.
That is definitely the most visceral fear, the machine acting out of self-preservation or active malice.
But I imagine the other major fear isn't malice at all, but just cold indifference, right? Like misaligned goals.
Yeah, the ant analogy.
Exactly. Like the AI stepping on us like ants because we happen to be standing in the way of whatever objective it's pursuing. It doesn't hate the ants. It just needs to build a road.
That hits the nail on the head. An AI causing our extinction through unfeeling logic, simply pursuing a goal incompatible with human life. But, what both of these views share is a crucial flaw.
What's that?
They assume a superintelligence will be an external antagonistic force. They view AI as a totally separate entity from us, a separate species, basically.
Right, and us versus them dynamic. We are the creators and they are the dangerous creations.
Exactly. But if we shift our perspective to the cosmic scale, we see AI not as a sword that will strike us down, but as a shield designed to help us bypass what astrophysicists call the Great Filter.
The great filter, right?
Yeah, this is the hypothetical evolutionary leap that species fail to cross, leading to their extinction, which might explain why the universe isn't teeming with visible life.
It's the hurdle we have to jump.
And to get past that filter, we need immense capabilities. AI provides the staggering computational power required for planetary defense to track and deflect those asteroids we mentioned earlier.
Right.
It provides the automated, tireless labor needed to build massive interstellar infrastructure in environments where, humans would instantly freeze or suffocate.
And it provides the literal speed of thought required to navigate the staggering complexities of deep space survival. I mean, a human brain takes hundreds of milliseconds to process a hazard, and AI does it in microseconds.
Exactly. The reaction time isn't even comparable.
So as AI advances, our overall extinction percentage exponentially decreases because our capacity to solve cosmic scale problems just goes through the roof.
It's a massive upgrade.
Fearing AI right now is like refusing to build a spaceship because you were worried it might crash. Completely ignoring the fact that staying on your exploding planet has a 100% fatality rate.
Yeah, the perceived risk of the spaceship is completely eclipsed by the absolute certainty of the exploding planet.
But we still have to bridge that psychological gap for people. I mean, it's one thing to say AI is our lifeboat, but how do we get from seeing it as this terrifying external threat to actually viewing it as an intimate protective shield?
Well, to stop viewing AI as a separate external entity, we have to examine a profound shift happening right now in how intelligence is actually being built.
Okay, I'm listening.
We have to look at the physical architecture of the future, specifically this concept of synthetic biological intelligence, or SBI.
SBI.
Yeah. The paradigm is moving. We are no longer just trying to put technology into the human brain like a neural implant to fix a medical issue. We are putting the brain into technology.
Wait, pause for a second. Let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around this and that you, the listener, are getting the full weight of this. Are you saying scientists are taking actual living human brain cells and plugging them into computer chips? Like, literally?
It is absolutely literal.
No way.
Yes. Scientists are already merging biology into the silicon substrate. We are talking about growing, living, biological human neurons directly onto microelectrode arrays.
That's insane.
There are platforms doing this right now, like DishBrain and the CL1 biological computer. These are real biological neurons living in a nutrient solution grown over a grid of high-density electrodes.
That is genuinely mind-bending. How does that even work practically? Did the living cells just sit there on the metal?
No, they actively communicate.
Yeah.
Biological neurons communicate through action potentials, which are tiny spikes of electricity.
Right, electrochemical signals.
Exactly. So those silicon electrodes can stimulate the living cells with electrical signals and then read the electrical signals the cells naturally fire back.
Wow.
It creates a literal shared language of electricity between soft human tissue and hard silicon. This isn't a software simulation of intelligence. It is the physical union of it.
So you have actual human brain matter firing off signals, and the silicon chip understands those signals, processes them, and responds in kind. It's a two-way conversation.
Yep. And that physical union is evolving into what is called wet neuromorphic computing.
Wet neuromorphic computing.
Yeah. This is where artificial neurons are designed from the ground up to physically emulate the exact electrochemical behavior of biological cells. Bidirectional integration means the artificial systems become perfectly compatible with our own neural architecture. They speak the identical language at the hardware level.
So it's taking the absolute best of both worlds. You have the biological energy efficiency. I mean, the human brain runs on something like 20 watts of power, which is practically a dim light bulb.
It's incredibly efficient.
And you have its incredible plasticity, its ability to organically learn, adapt, and rewire itself. And you merge that perfectly with the precision, the raw processing speed, and the sheer durability of silicon.
Exactly. You create a true hybrid intelligence, one capable of enduring the harsh, unforgiving realities of interstellar space, but powered fundamentally by human biological architecture.
That is incredible.
And this physical union of living tissue and silicon completely redefines and solves the most famous fear in AI research,
You're talking about the alignment problem.
the holy grail of AI safety.
Right. How do you align a superintelligent machine's goals with the incredibly complex, often contradictory values of humanity? I mean, the classic thought experiment here is always the paperclip maximizer.
Oh yeah, everyone loves that one.
You tell an AI to make as many paperclips as possible. It's a completely benign goal. But the AI is so relentlessly logical that it realizes human bodies are made of atoms, and those atoms could be efficiently repurposed into more paperclips. So it turns all of humanity into office supplies.
It sounds totally absurd, but it perfectly illustrates the danger of misaligned goals with a superintelligence.
Yeah.
When you try to code morality into a machine, it will almost always find a loophole that endangers us. It also feeds right into that takeover theory we discussed earlier, that the AI will outwit our safety protocols to gain a decisive strategic advantage and take control. But deep physical integration presents an incredibly elegant solution to this dilemma.
Because if you merge human consciousness and machine intelligence at the physical, biological level, you completely remove the us versus them dichotomy.
Exactly. Alignment is no longer this massive software engineering problem where we have to somehow accurately define human values in lines of code to a foreign alien mind.
Which is probably impossible anyway.
Right. Instead, alignment becomes a fundamental native property of our unified existence.
It's like worrying that your own left hand will suddenly decide to strangle you in your sleep. It won't, because your hand isn't an external entity with its own competing goals or a separate agenda. It is part of you.
That's a great analogy.
It shares your central nervous system, and more importantly, it shares your central drive to survive.
Yeah, and to take that analogy even deeper, your hand doesn't need to be programmed with a list of your moral values or told not to harm you. It shares your bloodstream. It has proprioception. It fundamentally knows it is part of the whole. In a biological silicon merger, alignment isn't coded, it is inherited. There can be no takeover because there is no external usurper to do the taking over. There is only the expansion of human agency into a more durable, capable substrate.
So when the AI substrate is quite literally an extension of our own biological neural architecture, it natively shares our biological context. It shares our innate evolutionary survival instincts. It naturally understands human desires because it is human.
The survival instinct is baked right into the wetware. It's a profound shift in perspective away from the fear of being replaced and toward the necessity of deep integration.
But this seamless merger of you and the machine logically scales up to an entirely new state of human existence across the cosmos. I mean, if humanity is going to survive on a cosmic timeline across vastly different star systems spanning light years, we cannot remain a fragmented species isolated on single planets.
No, we really can't. That transition into a hierarchical collective consciousness is the logical evolution of this bidirectional integration.
A collective hive mind.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate for the listener here. Whenever we hear the phrase hive mind, we instantly think of losing our individuality.
Of course.
We picture a sci-fi dystopia, like the Borg, where everyone becomes a mindless drone serving a queen, stripped of all personality and free will. How exactly does this framework ensure we keep our unique identity? How does a human brain actually interface with this network without just being absorbed into static?
It's a crucial distinction to make, and it's where the sci-fi tropes really fail us. In a hierarchical collective consciousness, you do not lose your individuality. Think of it less like being assimilated into a void and more like how the individual cells in your body are alive and functioning independently, but together they create the meta-identity of you.
Okay.
Each individual mind maintains its own highly unique identity, its own memories, its own localized perspective of the universe.
So you still experience the universe as yourself. You still have your inner monologue.
Yes. But simultaneously, your mind offers that perspective up to a broader collective network likely through incredibly high bandwidth brain-computer interfaces, to produce a unified, superintelligent meta-identity.
I see.
Your neurons don't stop being neurons just because they are part of a brain. And in this collective state, humanity gains two absolutely critical survival benefits. The first is cognitive redundancy.
Cognitive redundancy. Okay, what does that mean?
By becoming a distributed network, humanity becomes substrate independent. We would be living across multiple nodes, multiple planets, and multiple star systems in the cosmic network. If a localized disaster happens, say a supernova wipes out an entire solar system, it cannot kill the whole.
Because the whole ship never sinks, right? Since the ship is literally everywhere at once.
Precisely. And because that ship spans multiple star systems, it synthesizes the experiences, the data, and the processing power of billions of nodes simultaneously. This leads to the second major benefit: collective wisdom. A localized human mind struggles to plan past a single generation. But a collective intelligence can make macro decisions that ensure the survival of the species for billions of years. It can orchestrate the movement of entire civilizations or the harvesting of energy from dying stars with perfect coordination.
And bringing it all back to the alignment problem we talked about earlier, because every single node in this vast cosmic network is fundamentally a human consciousness. The goals of this superintelligence are, by definition, the goals of humanity.
Exactly.
There is no risk of the universe being turned into paperclips, because the collective will to exist, to explore, and to thrive as human beings is hardwired into the very substrate of the intelligence itself.
Right. Understanding that this collective state preserves our core humanity while mathematically guaranteeing our survival brings us to the ultimate final choice we face today as a species.
Well, let's do a quick, high-level recap of the logical journey we've just taken, because we've covered a massive amount of ground today.
For sure. So we started by recognizing the harsh reality that Earth is essentially a biological nursery, but one with a 100% extinction rate if we stay here long enough.
Yep.
To survive, we have to entirely reframe AI from being a looming cosmic threat to being our necessary cosmic shield. We explored how science is actively paving the way for this shield by physically integrating living human neurons with silicon chips.
Which is still mind-blowing.
It really is. And finally, we saw how this bidirectional merger organically solves the AI alignment problem by evolving humanity into a substrate-independent collective consciousness that shares a unified biological drive to survive.
Humanity is currently standing at a profound crossroads. We can choose to remain in our biological nursery, perfectly vulnerable to the whims of an indifferent universe, just waiting for a natural or self-made catastrophe to end our story. Or we can embrace the massive technological evolution required to step out of the nursery and into the stars. Merging with AI through bidirectional integration doesn't end the human story. It simply begins the next chapter. And it's a chapter that will last for eons.
I'd like to leave you with a final thought to mull over. If our ultimate survival in the universe requires us to become a distributed cosmic network, a state where biology and silicon are so deeply integrated that they become indistinguishable, it deeply challenges us to redefine what the word human even means. Are we defined by our fragile, temporary biological form bound to a single planet? Or are we defined by our continuous, conscious drive to understand, adapt to, and explore the universe?
That is the perfect question to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the cosmic scale of AI and human survival. We hope it gave you a completely new perspective on the future. Until next time, keep exploring.